Hey guys, welcome back. Today is the first lesson. We're going to be solving equations. We're going to solve by factoring, and then we're going to look at equations that have no solutions. Let's get started. Alright, here we have a very basic equation. Here we have 3x minus 7 equal to 5. Well, what we want to know is find out what x is. So, we need to get rid of the 3, and we need to get rid of that minus 7. Now, here our first step is going to be to get rid of anything that's adding or subtracting first. So in this case we have a minus 7, so let's get rid of that. That means that we need to send whatever's here on the left side over to the right side. Remember, when I say left or right side, I'm talking about the equal sign. Remember, the equal sign splits in between the left and the right side. So to get rid of a minus 7, I'll go ahead and add 7. Now remember, you have an equation. That means you need to keep things balanced. So add 7 on the left side. That means I add 7 on the right side. Notice that I didn't touch that 3x. Since I didn't touch it at all, I'm going to go ahead and bring it down. So I have 3x. Now here this says negative 7 plus 7, which is 0. So technically it looks like this. Plus 0. But we know that adding 0 to anything stays the same, even if it's just a variable. So adding 0, we don't need to show it. We need to get it out of there. So we just have 3x. My equal sign is still here. So 3x is equal to 5 plus 7. I can simplify that. 5 plus 7 is 12. So this is what I have now. 3x is equal to 12. That 3 is still bothering that x, so I need to get rid of it. This says 3 times x. Whenever you have a number next to a letter, it means that they're multiplying. Since I need to move this 3 to the other side, I'll do the opposite. Divide by 3. Remember, keep things balanced. And go to the other side. Divide by 3. 3 divided by 3, technically it's 1. So technically this is a 1x. Here's my equal sign. 12 divided by 3, 4. Now, like I said, technically it's a 1. So it's 1x equals to 4. But anything times 1 stays the same. So I don't need to show this, and you need to get in the habit of not showing it. So x is equal to 4 is my final answer. Alright, go ahead and pause the video and try these numbers out. The answers are coming up in 3, 2, 1. Alright, here are your answers. I hope you got them right. Here's a little challenge question. See if you can do it before I do it. I'm going to start doing it in 3, 2, 1. Notice that I have the variables on the left and the right side. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to choose whether I either move the 4n to the left side or the 2n to the right side. Whatever way you choose, it doesn't matter. You're going to get the same answer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the 2n to the right side. Why? Just so I can keep my variable positive. So minus 2n minus 2n. Anything I didn't touch, I'm going to bring down. So 3. This is gone now. Here's my equal sign. 4n minus 2n. Now notice that I can only subtract 2n from another end. Here I'm collecting like terms. So think about it like this. I have 4 things, and I'm taking 2 things away. Well, now I have 2n. 2n. And I didn't touch this. I couldn't touch it. So I just bring it down. Plus 7. So this is kind of like one of the ones we had before, but our variable's on the right side. It doesn't matter. So what I'll do now, I'll either get rid of the 2 or the 7. What I want to do is get rid of that 7. So plus 7, that's going to be a minus 7 on the right side. So keep your equation balanced. In my equal sign. I didn't touch 2n, so I bring it down. Okay, so I do minus 7, so that's negative 4. So I'm saying that negative 4 is equal to 2n. Well, I don't want 2n, I just want n, so get rid of that 2. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. Your final answer is n equal to negative 2. Alright, here we're looking at an equation where we need to factor. Okay, this is what I noticed. I noticed that this has an x, okay, it's an x squared, and this has an x also, okay, and they have it equal to 0. What I'm going to do here is that I'm going to take these x's out. Now think about it, this one had 2 x's. I can only take 1 x out, so instead of having 2 x's, I just have 1 x left over, plus 2. This one doesn't have an x anymore, I took it out. Okay, it's the opposite of distributing. I'm undistributing the x's that were given out. And notice how this is the same thing, because look what would happen if I distributed this. X times x, x squared, plus x times 2 is 2x. So right now it's equivalent. Now let's look at what we have. Here I'm saying that either this term is equal to 0 or this term is equal to 0. Now why? The thing is that when you multiply by 0, you get 0. So here we actually have two possibilities. Either this is 0 and it makes our whole equation equal to 0, which is what we want, or this could be 0, which would make everything 0, and that's also what we want. Okay, let's solve this, and I'll explain again why you're splitting it into 2. So our first possibility is this term, x is equal to 0. Do we have to do any more work? No, we're done with this one. Or x plus 2 is equal to 0. Well, here we do have to do work. So we want to solve for this x. So subtract 2, minus 2, minus 2. I didn't touch the x, I'll bring it down. X is equal to negative 2. So we can, this one has two answers. Either x is 0 or x is negative 2. Alright, now let me show you why we split it into 2. Alright, in the first scenario, x was 0. What happens if we substitute a 0 in here? This would be 0 squared plus 2 times 0 equal to 0. 0 squared is 0 plus 2 times 0, 0. 0 is equal to 0, which is true, so that's an answer. Let's look at what happens to this one. Okay, here I'm saying that x is negative 2. So, negative 2 squared plus 2 times is negative 4 equal to 0. 4 plus negative 4, well, that's 0 equal to 0, which is also true, so this is our second answer. Alright, you might get problems that look like this. X squared equals to 4x. Okay, just like before, I noticed that all my terms have an x. So I know I'm going to factor things out. Okay, I'm going to take back that distribution. But you have a step to do first. You need to move that 4x to the other side. So, minus 4x minus 4x. I can't combine them, they're not like terms. This has an x squared, and this just has an x. So since this is not squared, I can't combine them. What I'll do is I'll just write them next to each other. So x squared minus 4x equals, there's nothing here now, this is 0. So notice how now it's like the one we did earlier. It just had an extra step. So I'm going to take out an x, so x, remember there's not 2 anymore there, now it's just x minus 4, close my parentheses, there. So remember, you have two possibilities. Either this term is 0 or this term is 0. Just split them up. Either x is equal to 0, so that's right here, or x minus 4 is equal to 0. This one you have to work for. So plus 4 plus 4. X is equal to 4. There. So those are my two answers. 0, 4. Oh, don't forget, depending on your teacher, they might want you to write it as a solution set. So instead of just leaving my answers like this, I can write them in the set 0, 4. Okay, so that would be my solution set for this problem. Just writing your answers in the set notation. Alright, here I'm going to do something that's called factoring by grouping. So what I want to do is group these terms together and group these terms together. So I notice that when I have these two terms, that they share an x squared. That's the lowest thing that I can take out from each of them. So this becomes x squared. So remember, I'm taking x squared out of these two terms. So now this one only has an x minus, I don't have x squared anymore, I took it out, so this just becomes a 1. And notice that if I distributed this, I get back what I had up here. 2x's times another x is 3x, so 3 x's, so it's x to the third power minus x squared times 1 is x squared, so I'm good. Minus, notice what I have here. These share a 4, so I'm going to take a 4 out. Now, notice that when I take this 4 out, this, what kind of 4 was this? This was a minus 4. So I have an x here, minus 1. Now why is that? Why did I change this sign? If I distribute this, remember I should get back what I had before. So if I distribute this negative 4, I do negative 4 times x, which is negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 1, which is positive 4. So that's why I had to change the sign here. Now notice what I have. I have x minus 1 and x minus 1. Now it looks long, but they still share this factor in common, so I can take it out, just like I previously took out the x squared and that 4. So let's do that. So now it looks like this. X minus 1. Now pretend that this is not here anymore. Pretend that this is not here anymore, and all I have is x squared. And this is not here anymore because you took it out, so I have minus 4. You should see where I get the x minus 1 from. My other part I got from here and here, whatever was left over from the outside. So now we have something that we can manage. Either this is 0, look, I have this equal to 0, or this is 0. And I should have 3 answers in total. How do I know? Because my biggest power was to a third power. So since x to a third power is my biggest one, I should have 3 answers. If my biggest power was 4, I would need 4 answers, and so on and so on. So here I'll need to figure out how to get 3 answers. In that first one, I'm going to break this up. Either x minus 1 is 0, so let me solve that. Plus 1, x is equal to 1. Or x squared minus 4 equals to 0. Okay, look at what I'm going to do here. Plus 4, x squared is equal to 4. Well, that's x squared equals to 4. What I want is just x. To get rid of that squared, I need to take the square root. So square root. I'm running out of space, so I'm going to do that here. When you take the square root of something, most of the time we usually take just a positive answer. Here we need to get 2 answers out of this, so this is what we do. The square root of 4 is 2, so we know that x is equal to 2. When you actually take the square root of anything, like I said, it's positive and it's also negative. Okay. Usually in most problems we only take the positive answer. Now look at what this is saying. If I put a 2 in here, I would get 2 squared, so that's 4. 4 minus 4 is 0, so I'm good. What if I put a negative 2 in here? I should get the same thing. Let's see. Negative 2 squared, so it's negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. It's positive 4. Negative times a negative is a positive. So 4 minus 4 is still 0. Alright? So that's how I get my 3 answers. Your solution set should include negative 2, 1, and positive 2. Because we always write them in order from least to greatest. Go ahead and combine everything I've shown you and try this problem out. I'm going to show you the answer and how to do it in 3, 2, 1. Alright, this is how you work this one out. I moved my x squared to the other side, so I have 4x to the third minus x squared equal to 0. I notice that they both have x squares at the very least, so I take that out, I factor that out. So x squared times 4x minus 1 equal to 0. Now here comes your split. X squared equal to 0 or 4x minus 1 equal to 0. Now let's see what happens here. I should get 2 answers from here, but when I take the square root, notice that I would get plus or minus 0. Well, 0 is 0, so even though this had to a third power, 2 of my answers repeated. It was 0. So I just write one of them down, 0. On the other side, I add 1 to both sides, divide by 4, and I get that my answer is 1 over 4. So 0 and 1 over 4 are your answers. Alright, what if you get something crazy looking like this, and you have parts getting multiplied by fraction? Well, what I want to do is look at my denominator and get rid of those. I notice that I have a denominator of 2 and a denominator of 3. So what I want to do is multiply everything by 6. Why? Because 6 would be the least common denominator. So I want to get rid of my denominators here. Okay, let's see how we're going to do that. Multiply my left side by 6, and since I did that on the left side, I have to do it on the right side also by 6. Now let's see what happens. By the way, this is one big term, minus 4. So that 4 is another term. One term, two terms. So 6 times this term, well, 6 times 1 over 2, what's half of 6? It's 3. The rest wasn't touched because this is one big term, and that half took that 6. Minus 4, so minus 6 times 4, 24, equal to 6 times a third. Now notice how this is one giant term. And I know it's one giant term because this fraction and are getting multiplied. Okay. Notice how this minus 4 was on the outside. It was separated from this, so it wasn't part of it. It's its own term. Here, I have all of this together, and I don't have anything else plus or minus. So this is one big term. So what's 1/3 of 6? It's 2 times 2x minus 1. There. So at least now we got rid of our fractions. It looks a lot better. Okay. What I'll do now is I'll go ahead and work the rest out. 3, and I'm going to distribute this 3. So I get 3x plus 15 minus 24. I didn't touch this minus 24, so I brought it down. And distribute that too. 4x minus 2. Okay? Here I have a choice. I could either move this 3 to this side or this 4x to this side. I'll just go ahead and I'll bring that 4x to the left side. Whatever you choose is up to you. Minus 4x minus 4x. I get negative x plus 15 minus 24 is negative 9. So negative 9 equal to negative 2. So we went from this craziness to having this. Negative x minus 9 equals negative 2. Okay, we can finish this one off. So plus 9, I have negative x equal to 7. Now you're saying that negative x is equal to 7. That would mean that positive x is equal to negative 7. So x is equal to negative 7. And remember, depending on your teacher, they might want you to show the solution set. Alright, go ahead and pause the video and try this one out. I'll go ahead and I'll show you all the steps in 3, 2, 1. Alright, look what I did here. I noticed that my denominators all had 2's. So I think you have to think about this one. I just went ahead and I multiplied my whole left side by 2 and my right side by 2. So what happens here? 3 over 2 times 2 is 3. So 3x plus 2, 4 equals half of 2 is 1. Half of 2 is 1. Now remember, I didn't write 1 because 1 times x is just x. So it's redundant. I don't need to write that. So this is my next line. 3x plus 4 equals 1 minus x. I chose to go ahead and move my x to the left side. So plus x, 4x. I didn't touch anything else. So 4x plus 4 equals to 1. Subtract by 4, subtract by 4. 4x is equal to negative 3. Divide by 4. And x is equal to negative 3 over 4. There you go. Hope you got it right. Alright, last question for today. Go ahead and pause the video. Try this one out. See if you can do it before I put up the answers. In 3, 2, 1. Alright, here I notice that I have a fraction and I have denominator of x minus 2 for both of them. Just like before, even though it's going to be a little bit longer, I need to get rid of this x over 2 by doing the same thing. Instead of just multiplying it by a number, I'm going to multiply my left and my right side by x minus 2. So x minus 2 and x minus 2. Now notice what happens here. When I multiply this term, that denominator is going to go away. So, because x minus 2 divided by x minus 2 is 1, so it goes away. So I just have x. What I had in the numerator stays the same. And same thing here, had in the numerator and the denominator, so it goes away. So I just have a 2 left over. Alright, if you were comfortable, you could have skipped this step right into the next one, but it's up to you. This is what's actually happening here. X equals 2. I'm going to distribute this positive 3. So 3 times x is positive 3x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. I'm going to collect my like terms. So here I notice that I have 4x minus 6 equals 2. Get rid of the 6. So plus 6 plus 6. 4x equals 8. And last step, x equals 2. Because I divided both sides by 4. Alright, next time we're going to look at quadratic equations. We're going to solve by factoring, complete the square, and we'll use the quadratic formula.